Welcome to the Moms I Know with Sheila Walsh-Dunton and Maria Anderson-Farner. Two moms on a mission to reclaim childhood and take you from surviving to thriving on your parenting journey.
Children are the original gurus.
Hi, this is Maria.
And this is Sheila.
And we want to welcome you to the Moms I Know.
I am super excited to introduce you to our guest today, Jessica Rios of Leaning into Light. Jessica is a dear friend of mine, as well as a writer, a mother, and she has been a coach for 15 years plus. I know there's many other things that we can add to what she has done. She's a lifelong student of relationships and communication and a prolific letter writer since childhood. Because of her deep love for humanity and enchantment with the human spirit, she has been called a profound romantic. Love is her religion. Thank you, Jessica, for being here, and welcome to the Moms I Know.
Thank you so very much for having me.
I am excited to have this conversation with you and to talk about the things that really light you up. You know, can you tell us how you came to be leaning into light, how you came to be such a strong mama with a vision for the planet?
Okay, love it. So first thing that pops in is when I was a very affectionate child, physically affectionate, loved to touch people, loved to hug, loved to say I love you, all that stuff. And when I was 5 years old, these are just sort of early stories, little early stories. When I was 5 years old, my uncle, who's a successful attorney, he asked me, Jessica, you're so smart. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, happy. And I don't know where it came from. And my uncle Juan said, no, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he asked me, what do you want to be? So I said, happy. So it just seems like at an early age, there was something in me that grasped some of the central values of what it takes to be fulfilled as a human. And that's one little piece. The second piece, sort of as far as early memories are concerned, is when I was, how old are you, in second grade? I was in Catholic school in Fairfax, California, and it was time for First Communion. And I was getting ready for it, and something in me said, no, this isn't my way. This for me. Love is the basis of all religions. I mean, even just imagining that and the power in that, gives me chills and tears in my eyes at this moment. But I said, Mom, Dad, I don't think religion's not for me. I don't want to choose one over another or anything like that, because just because all these people are Christian in our part of the world doesn't mean that all these people who are practicing something else in a different part of the world are wrong or any less worthy of love. So I guess I shared that, and they were cool with it. They were great. They were so accepting, and that's pretty wild. I feel very blessed with that. But early on, I had that love is the most, I didn't have these words at the time, but love is the most powerful force in the universe. And we're here for things that are much deeper and bigger than a job for money. So that's some of it.
There were deep roots in this. I know that this just didn't come in the last 15 years. I knew it came from something deeper. And I can so relate to you with both of those things you mentioned. Number one is the happy. I remember being a parent in my children's preschool class, and the teachers asking, what do you want for your children? In preschool, like, what do you want? What do you want them to do and to be? And the thing was that a lot of the parents, we all said happy, and I think that comes from our own experiences and realizing we want happy children. And unfortunately, I think what happens as our kids get older, we feel the societal pressures. And so we get less from being happy and more with productivity, and that is such, and that's why this conversation is so important. So that moms with children of all ages can really remember what is important.
Yes. And I love that you shared that, because your love for your children is so profoundly rocketing. It's so powerful that you can look at them and say, well, happy, no question. But as far as we're concerned, our own selves, sometimes it's harder to love ourselves as we love our children. So Yeah. So those are just those two early pieces. And as far as, and I don't know where, exactly we're going to today with the flow of our conversation, which I'm so honored to have. But as far as children and kind of parenting imprints, you say a lot about that, but just children are, young humans, I should say, are a masterpiece of beauty and wonder and curiosity and aliveness and sensitivity and so many gorgeous things. So when I say, children are the original gurus, it's because here we are spending, so many of us, I don't, but a lot of people spend a lot of money going to spiritual retreats and things that are awesome. It's great. And our children, yet they're right there and available to teach us so many things and to guide us with the mastery that they have of being in the moment. And all these things we go to spiritual retreats to learn, they've got it nailed until we kind of work it out of them. So that's where that quote comes from.
I love that so much, Jessica. I have a quote right here on my desk at all times that says, while we try to teach our children all about life, our children teach us what life is all of. And that's from Angela Schwindt. But, so this is so powerful, and helping our listeners understand our depth of awareness of how much of a healing journey parenting is for us, as well as for, our responsibility to raise our children with as much love and compassion and understanding and awareness as possible. So thank you. I love that.
So Jessica, since becoming a parent, what has been, do you think, your biggest, I don't say aha moment? I see, I follow you on Instagram. I'm on your mailing list. I get these beautiful love letters in form of your blog and everything. And just your love is heightened so much through your daughter. And I love seeing that story. Can you give us some insight of how, as she is your teacher, what are some things that you have learned? What are some of those big lessons that you have learned that you can share with our listeners? Because I do believe that you are a light to share, to beam, and hopefully people will give your contact information so they can get on your mailing list at the end of the podcast and everything.
Wow. Again, so big. And so I'm just I think 7 years ago when I got pregnant, it began, right? This journey of, wow, I'm actually going to be a mother. And I was 38 at the time, or 37. And I was preparing for a home birth. I wanted to have my daughter at home. And I did everything I could to make my mind, my heart, my body, to be ready for that and to prepare for that. I took really good care of myself. And I was fortunate enough to have a home birth. I know a lot of people, mamas who want one, aren't fortunate enough to have one. And that's okay. It's all, yeah. But when she came out at home, 2 hours later, our midwife, home birth midwife, said she's not breathing right. And you need to get dressed, and an ambulance is going to come and get you, and we're going to go to the hospital. And so my beautiful sacred environment that was candlelit and all the beauty that is a home birth turned into suddenly the doors flying open and a fireman walking in with boots, and his intentions were good. Their intentions were good, but it was a horrible contrast to what I had been going through. Got in the ambulance with my daughter, and for 10 days, we stared at the meters in the NICU just to make sure she was going to make it. It was just this grip that was, it still rocks me so much. And and then I went through 13 months of postpartum depression. And, there are so many pieces to these stories. There's so much to these, right? But I guess the big thing, just to answer your question about the lessons, the big thing that happened for me really quickly in my daughter's, life out in the oxygenated world is that I thought, wait a minute, I'm 38. I'm not super fit. I'm healthy, but I gave birth at home and I gave birth. Oh my word. This body brought a new baby into this world. And I hadn't known what that was like before, right? You can't know it until you do it. Wait a minute. Every mother has brought life into this world. It got broken down so powerfully in my mind and in my consciousness that I became, and this is a twist, I became angry at women for what we tolerate, for what we allow, for how much room we have to grow in being aware of our power, aware of the massive, intense beauty of what we can do, bring in new life, not to mention all the work of raising new life and guiding it, but just that fact. Wait a minute. And I started scratching my head. Wait a minute. Why are women where we are in terms of the patriarchy and such? If we do that, it didn't make any sense to me. And so my anger transformed. It's not personal at any one woman, but it became this desire to really stand in my powerful self as far as what I don't tolerate, what I speak up for, what I show my daughter, that I don't want her to go through some of the things I was exposed to growing up about my body and how it was supposed to look and what I was supposed to do with this and that. It's just a fierce, I guess the lesson is like, it's a fierce commitment to honoring her and women, you know, really standing for fighting other women to be in our power. So I guess you could say she's given me the lesson or the gift of honoring me, you know.
That is so beautiful. I'm just sitting here like, you're just speaking such truth to these things that, you know, I remember the same thing when I birthed my baby, of just like thinking of motherhood and just the miracle, like you said. But I love how you took it a step further and just said, like, being angry. I get that. It's just like, we can do so much. You know, I'm trying to tell my teenage girls and I have, you know, a 10-year-old of just, you don't realize the power that you have, you know, and just really keeping on reminding them, because we have been told throughout generations that we're not enough. You know, we have that glass ceiling that we can't do that. And I just love that there's a power, you know, we can say that women, we are rising right now. And Maria and I have talked about how the Dalai Lama has said, you know, the Western woman will save the world. And it's just like, I believe with our resources, we can. And just like you, Jessica, you are a leader.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that, and just the affirmation and the acknowledgement. And yeah, it's our power. It's, you know, just because you walk into a doctor's office to get checked when you're pregnant. Oh my gosh, you're pregnant. And you walk into a doctor's office, you know, doesn't mean that a man or a woman with a long white coat who went to a lot of school and is probably a lovely person has the answers for you. It just doesn't mean that. So, you know, turn to the people you know and trust, and find your way and your truth without putting the power outside yourself. That's the thing for me. Yeah. It's, the power lies within us. And the piece, Sheila, that the anger, which is not a big one for me, right? Women aren't really encouraged to feel our anger. But the big piece was just, I could imagine how many women might want to have a home birth, but they were told, oh, that's a bad, scary thing to do. And I think, wait a minute. No. Yeah, maybe it's a little scary, but guess what? Life is, you know, we could die any second. So when we give our power away, it's just so unfortunate.
Yeah. No, I had home births. I had my first baby in the hospital, and the second two were home births. So the power that when you birth anyhow you birth the baby is a miracle. Yeah. But there's something sacred in your home for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So something that you do that really inspires me is your letter writing. And I know you do workshops about your letter writing, and I know you even are you still doing your line of cards?
I am. It's slimmed down because it became more of a hobby that wasn't really paid.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But you have beautiful cards. You're a natural artist. You have a way with words, of course. But can you tell us a little bit about like what letter writing has done for you? You know, like why are you so inspired to teach others to write letters? Because as I've kind of wanted to incorporate pieces of that into one of my programs of just and using you as a resource for sure, but because I think it opens up so much. I mean, when we were younger, right, we I wrote letters all the time. I was an exchange student. I have still love letters that we still have that were before email, but it's because we had a long distance relationship for like 3 years. And so it was a lot of letters. So tell us, a little bit more about what inspired you to teach people how to write letters and the importance of letter writing.
So I was probably, around 40 or so. And I was downtown Petaluma here at a little card shop, a beautiful card store. And the woman knew me because I liked to go in there and get cards. And one day she said, "Gosh, Jessica, do you want to teach a letter writing workshop?" And I looked at her like, what did you just ask me? That's crazy. And it ended up being that I taught a letter writing workshop in her beautiful little card store, which is now closed. But what happened was I recognized that I was in the 4 stages of competency. So there's at the bottom, unconscious incompetency, and then there's conscious incompetency, and then there's conscious competency. I know I'm good at this. And then there's unconscious competency, where you're so good at something, you just don't even think about it. It's not existing in the thinking brain. And that's where I am with letters, because I've been writing since I was 5. It's just, it happens like I breathe. So what I had to do was take it out of my, out of me and go, how would I actually tell somebody to write a letter? So it happened. And now I'm actually leading a year-long workshop called Make Life Your Lover. And so it's basically about the myth, taking away the myth that intimacy is about romantic relationships, and reclaiming, women, men, whoever, reclaiming, it's mostly women who come to the workshops, that intimacy belongs with every relationship we have. And life is relationship. So your relationship with money, your relationship with your home, your ancestry. So it's a year-long thing. And that's lots of fun. But it's a great joy. Letter writing is, and it took me over 35 years to realize this, it's a very powerful art. It's therapeutic. It's a powerful way to express love. And you have shoeboxes of letters between you and your husband. Do you have shoeboxes of printed emails? No, we don't, because we're not going to do it. It's kind of dead.
It's like our digital photos. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I never have met a person who receives a letter or a card in the mail and doesn't feel, so touched, to have been thought of. And for somebody to actually take a pen, especially in this day and age, and send it to them in the mailbox, it can totally brighten a day.
Thank you. I know Maria is very good with writing letters. That's one thing I remember when she was my children's teacher, that she would write us letter. She would write us letters at the end of the year. And I do think when you do take the time, it means something. It touches something. I think it's the energy, the effort that means something. It's really cool.
Well, I've also always said that, and there's research backing this, that when we actually physically handwrite something, it's doing different, brain integration. It's a different communication form. And so I remember the year we did the whole, history of writing from early cave paintings all the way up through the current models. And the children really, really resonated with that. I mean, they love to express themselves. They love to share with others. So when you think of this, it's another expression of humanity, that we communicate with each other through art, through music, through spoken word. And so the letter writing, Jessica, I love that you're doing this. It is an art form. And it's an art form that I think is one that's so important to hang on to. And so, the work that we do with our children, and Sheila, you are doing that with the people that you work with, and helping people understand the importance of it, not just for, brain development, but also for this development of humanity. And so, I hope that we don't lose that. And something handwritten, you're right. When we get something handwritten in the mail, it has the essence of that other person. There is that soul quality because it's their handwriting. So I could go on and on about, a lot of individual stories, but I just am so grateful for the work that you're doing. So yes.
Thank you. Yeah. And I encourage, mamas who are listening, I so encourage you to just pull out a blank card and envelope and some stamps and some markers or whatever with your child, and let them send a letter to somebody. And, my daughter, Helena, so again, she's a little over 6 years old, but she loves making cards for people. And I didn't realize a couple years into this, I was like, oh my goodness, she's becoming expensive with this, this hobby, making stamps, Then we moved to Sweden for a year. And one piece of mail sent back to America, where she was sending all her mail, pretty much, was the equivalent of $2.52. So if she wanted to send 10 letters in a week, I'm like, girlfriend, that's $25, like, oh my gosh. So it gave me a little clue as to how to help her earn her stamps. And the fact that she was willing to work for stamps, I was like, oh my goodness, I've done something right.
Yes, your mother's daughter, for sure. So I love how natural it is for you to be such a natural parent, and so we've talked about the letter writing, how you express your art and your love that way, and we have talked about where it's come from. It's just knowing at an early age, about love and your ability to express it, and having parents that accepted that. It's when you said that communion story, I too was a second grader in Catholic school in Marin, and there's no way my parents would have allowed me to say no to communion. So I feel like that has allowed you to be expressive, and that was a gift for sure.
Yeah.
I've read several of your articles that you have written for Natural Parent and other publications that are for attachment parenting. And, what do you have to say to what is going on right now? You know what I mean? Like mainstream in the sense of when you're at the store and you're seeing parents that are harried, that are, not paying attention, and I'm not saying we're better than at all. We're not doing any judgment or anything, but yet, how do you know what you're doing is the path that you should be on in with the natural parenting, with the attachment parenting? Because I've done the same road pretty much, like we've attachment parented, we homeschooled for 10 years, like we have done that. And I'm just curious of how have you come to that place? Because I think, we all have our different stories and our different experiences, but for me, it has not always been easy.
Yes, I think where we're going with this is this idea that sometimes when we make these decisions which are outside of the mainstream, there's a lot of judgment around that. And so, for me, it's this idea of strengthening our core, our own sense of will, that we know what we're doing is right. And so what I'm hearing you asking, Jessica, is, how do you know that this is the path that is right for you, in the way that you're raising your daughter, in the way that you are following your instincts as a mother and really honoring that inner wisdom?
So yes. And the three of us could just write a book, right now about this one multi-tentacled question. I think of it as instinctual. So let's see. So first of all, you mentioned the grocery store and sort of being, when we're in the presence of parenting styles that are different from ours and that seem, unempowering, disempowering of the children, or not like really honoring the child, and that they're their own human and they have answers too, and that sort of thing. Or even, we all have different degrees of how much we allow our children to use screens, whether it's a computer screen like a phone or a TV or whatever. Right now, I look at that with so much compassion, and actually you can hear the tears in my voice. I am living right now in a question of whether I actually am being asked to surrender one of my greatest passions, which is self-directed learning, unschooling, homeschooling my child, raising her to learn through life, not through school. And I'm not going to go into that story right now because that's not what you're asking. But how do I know that it's right? I only know it's right for me in this moment. I only know it's right for me and my daughter in this moment. I don't know anything about tomorrow. I don't know what's right for anybody else. And after a lot of pain and challenges and pushing forward toward the loving way for us, surrendered a lot of judgments about what other people do. I just don't, it is not my place. It is not, so I hear that in you too. It's just, all I can do is tell the truth in this moment. And I think of, enlightened beings like Eckhart Tolle. And when I listen to him, it's just so, all we have to do is tell the truth right now and be in this present moment. So when it comes to my choices, mine and my husband's choices around how we educate our daughter, or vaccinations, or co-sleeping, or breastfeeding, or how we gave birth, whatever, it's all just in the moment telling the truth. And fundamentally, there's no one right way. There are as many different ways to mother as there are mothers. So that's all I know. But, another sort of aspect of what you each sort of presented in your question is, how do I know? I just listen to my heart. I listen to, I've made billions of observations in this world about how things work and what humans are doing and why and all of this. All I do is just listen to what my heart tells me in this moment. And even if I don't know why I feel this way, I feel this way. And I believe, this is an assertion that I have about our species, I believe that we've overvalued IQ. We've overvalued the left brain. And it's important, and it's really important. And we are in the kindergartner stage with understanding EQ. We're in the kindergartner stage with acknowledging the power of feelings. They're harder to measure. They're harder to all kinds of things. It's a lot of what women hold. The emotional terrain of a whole new life that we birthed. Holy Moses! It's just like, but that's what guides me. I would say it's my heart, and it's a very powerful heart, and everyone's heart is powerful, inherently. So I just know it's right for us today, right now. That's all.
Such beautiful advice, because really, ultimately, we only have, we have those decisions that we each make. And so for each of the mothers that we work with to help affirm that, and you've done that so beautifully, because that is the path of just following our hearts. And certainly at this time in history, I think, we really are starting to pay more attention to that intelligence of the heart and being aware of that. And so your story has been so poignant.
Yeah. And thank you for pulling that out, that it's the surrender, and it's being right here, right now. And that, I think, is the practice that as mothers, we have to keep on reminding ourselves and reminding our children to let them feel their feelings, to hold that space, and to not hurry along. I mean, and that's, I guess, I think one thing that I would like to share with other parents is like, stop the hurry. It's not a race, and I think that's the gift we get when we do things a little bit differently.
Yeah. And it's, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there is a culture. So we can think of ourselves as fish, and the culture is the water. The water's the culture. So even though we might have a unique way to swim, and we might be really strong in honoring our instincts, we still are swimming in the culture. And the culture is fast, and the culture is addicted to all kinds of things. And it's hard not to let it into our skin. So, and I just want to honor with a deep, deep reverence in this moment, every mother who's listening, who feels like you're doing such amazing work, but it's so hard because the culture doesn't honor it. It doesn't. And I just want to say, who will honor it? Your very dearest mama friends. Even if they're not mamas, your friends, other women. There's nothing, I would probably take my own life tomorrow if I knew my dearest mama friends weren't going to be around. I just can't even imagine. I have no intention to take my own life. However, they are, oh gosh, everything I go through that's tough, I turn to them. So if you don't feel like you have that network, mamas who are listening, just start with one person. Just find one person. Follow your heart to one person. Because everyone wants to show love, and everyone wants to be loved, and somebody's waiting for you. But if you already have that, you're fortunate, invest in it. Oh gosh, mamas, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. This has been such a lovely conversation. And I feel like, definitely we could go on for hours, but we like to keep these, mama timed and enough for them to take it all in. So how would our listeners be able to get a hold of you? contact you?
The best way is just to go to my blog, which is leaningintolight.com, leaningintolight.com, and just find me there. You can email me at jessica@leaningintolight.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And from Maria and I, we'll see you next time on The Moms I Know.
Thanks for joining us today for The Moms I Know. To learn more about Sheila and her online program, The Mom Map, visit purplebeetnutrition.com. For Maria's monthly blog and to learn more about her group programs and retreats, visit soquelessentials.com. That's SOQUEL essentials.com. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Moms I Know. Until next week, have a joyful family journey.